Hello, Chuck here. Welcome. This is a short about IK Multimedia, iLoud sub, and ArcX calibration. This is part 1 of 4. And in this first part, I'm just going to go over the physical aspects of the iLoud sub, what you get when you purchase one. So what we see here is you get a microphone, a calibration microphone. You get the iLoud sub itself, and you also get the software, which is downloaded into the IK product manager and then authorized from there. So you get those 3 things when you purchase it. So when I got mine, I decided I wanted some grills over the driver and the 2 passive radiators. There's a driver in the front that you see here, and the left side and the right side have passive radiators, and I covered those with a grill because I could just see myself putting a foot through one of them by accident or something like that. And what I used was just a grill that I got from Amazon, but I didn't want to drill holes in it and use the mounting hardware, so I used the 3M command strips, which turned out to be very useful all over the music room / studio. They work very, very well. It's a pretty handy little thing for around the house, too. So what we have here is just a picture of the back of the sub. If anyone's ever seen, or if you've seen a sub, and the back of it, you can have quite a maze of buttons, switches, and knobs and things. This is pretty clean and pretty straightforward. You got the USB connection to the computer while calibration's going on. Your analog in and out, pretty straightforward. What I did here was I just did a quick measurement with a tape measure to see what the overall dimensions after adding the grills was, along with how I call it the length dimension. When you include the XLR connectors in the back and the AC plug and so forth, it turns out to be a little bit longer than probably what the product page may say it is. So these are pretty usable dimensions for what kind of space it actually takes up in your studio or wherever you're using one. So here I just took a pic of where I placed the sub to the right of center between the 2 Neumann KH120s, and join me for the second part where we get ready to prep before doing the calibration. Thank you. Hello and welcome to part 2 of 4 of the IK Multimedia iLoud sub with ArcX calibration. Part 2 is about the preparation that I did before actually doing the final calibration. A little preparation can really be very helpful for something like this. The first thing I needed to do was be certain I knew where the room center was, which I've shown here with just marked it out in this photograph. And from there, I was able to take my carpet protector that I roll around on my chair on and make a nice black line so I had the center of the room sorted out. Now, my speakers are set 65 inches apart, so I needed to come up with an equilateral triangle of 65 inches, which we see marked out here. So that's the back of the apex of the blue triangle there, pointing to the back. Something that's kind of helpful for aligning the speakers to the actual center of the apex of the equilateral triangle I found to be laser pointers like this that you can get at hardware stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, or something. And it makes aligning the speakers quite a bit easier. Once I had the apex of the triangle figured out, I simply figured out where my listening position would be, which is I have circled in blue here inside the apex for the actual listening position. And the other marks there are the other measuring positions that ArcX uses for the calibration. And I've got them numbered here in the order. And the way this works with a sub like this is that there's 3 sweeps per position. So you got left sweep, right sweep, sub sweep, and then you move to position 2, you do the same 3, and it goes through that whole process. Now, the more advanced calibration has 3 layers. So you have the ear position, 6 inches below, 6 inches above, and I found it helpful to take another mic stand and just mark the 3 positions out. It just makes getting through the calibration process easier and faster so that you know that you're measuring really what you want to be measuring. So that's just a little helpful hint. And overall, we have the prep pretty much ready to start the calibration. Here I have the microphone positioned in the listening position, waiting to start the calibration. So I hope you found this useful in some way or entertaining. And part 3 will be next. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Hello, Chuck here. Welcome to part 3 of 4, the IK Multimedia iLoud Sub ARC-X series of shorts. This is actually getting into the ARC-X calibration. Now, what I did was I decided that I wanted to use 80 decibel as my reference decibel level in the room. So I've got a dB meter and I measured it. It got as close as I could. There is a way to do that if you give it some consideration in ARC-X. You bring up your speaker level, bring down your preamp level, get your speaker level measured correctly, and then raise your preamp gain. So here, this is just showing the 3 levels that I referred to in part 2. There's ear level, 6 inches below ear level, 6 inches above. This is just a picture of ARC-X software demonstrating the 3 layers. Here's an actual picture of ARC-X software with, on the far right, the 7 different positions, which I touched on in part 2. In the middle is the calibration. You select, position 1, let it do the 3 sweeps. It gives you a pass or fail. Then you select and start 2, and you work your way through the 7 different calibrations for each layer. Now, given that these are shorts, I can't cover everything that's involved with the ARC-X calibration. So I'm just going to skip forward. That's the overview of how it goes. And what it showed here without calibration, ARC-X measured a peak-to-peak of 12 dB or plus and minus 6 dB in terms of the flatness of the room. I do have prime acoustic treatment in the room, so that's not too bad. This is a screenshot or a picture that I took of the predicted room acoustics by ARC-X. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was extremely skeptical of this. It shows a plus and minus, or peak-to-peak 5.6, plus and minus 2.8. And that, quite honestly, struck me as too good to be true. So I wanted to measure this using Room EQ Wizard, and I want to find out what I've really got in the room after the calibration with the iLoud sub, because this is just predicted. There's not a way to measure it in an ARC-X after you've done the calibration. So join me for part 4 and see what Room EQ Wizard actually measures. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this. Hello, Chuck here. Welcome to part 4 of 4, where I verify the ARC-X calibration with Room EQ Wizard. Now, as mentioned before, I thought the predicted results, I was quite skeptical of those, so I wanted to measure those. Room EQ Wizard is a free download. You do have to have a calibration mic with a calibration file, which I do have, but I wanted to check actual measurement versus predicted. Now, this is just a screenshot of Room EQ Wizard. What I did was I did ear level, 7 measurements with the 7 sweeps with the left speaker, 7 sweeps with the right speaker with the sub on both of them. So just 1 sweep per speaker. And this is unsmoothed, no smoothing, of the 14 altogether. Now this is an average of the 14, the 7 left and the 7 right. This is unsmoothed, okay? So there's no smoothing in this. Now, that's a technical term. You can research that if you're interested in what smoothing is in audio. And so what I did here is I used a 1/3 smoothing, which is common for acoustics. As I understand, maybe somebody knows better. And so the highest peak I measured at 84.2 decibels, with 80 decibel being my measurement level. And the lowest dip was 78.2 decibel as the lowest. And the frequency response goes down to about 22, 23 hertz, which I was very impressed by with this little box. So what we have here is a screenshot, a little bit more in depth here, where I show the peak at 84.2 and then the lowest dip at 78.2, which gives me a peak to, or a total peak to peak of 6 dB and plus and minus 3 dB as the total acoustics of the room, the way the room's working, which that matches the predicted in ArcX. I mean, I was totally flabbergasted and amazed by that. I could not believe that it turned out that well with this that's a very small sub. It's not a big sub. So it's an understatement to say that I am highly impressed with the IK Multimedia iLoud sub and IK ArcX calibration software. I hope you found this informative or entertaining, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.